The night started like any other party. Glasses clinked, music played softly, and people laughed over small talk. I thought I was just here to enjoy myself, maybe catch up with a few old friends. That was before I heard her words. At the far end of the room, my wife leaned close to her best friend and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "I can leave him." Her friend smiled, a sly glint in her eye, and replied, "Then I'll claim him." Time seemed to slow. My chest tightened. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. All those years of trust, the life we'd built, the sacrifices I had made, it felt like it vanished in a heartbeat. Laughter around me became white noise. I wanted to storm over, confront her, scream, but something inside me held back. I watched quietly. Every detail memorized: the way she sipped her drink like nothing happened, the smug expression on her friend's face. Everyone else was oblivious. They didn't see the betrayal, didn't notice the cracks forming in what they thought was a perfect marriage. I left the party early that night. Driving home, the anger simmered, but so did a new thought. Revenge. Not reckless, not loud, but precise. I didn't need to confront them immediately. I needed a plan, something that would leave them stunned, questioning how I had outsmarted them. I didn't explode that night. I bottled it into a slow, furious kind of focus. Like loading a rifle instead of firing wildly. If they wanted a spectacle, I would hand them something far cleaner: consequences wrapped in truth. First, I watched. People who plot betrayals always leave breadcrumbs, texts, offhand boasts, the careless way they mention names. My wife and her friend were no different. I started with the small things. Screenshots of offhand messages, dates when her friend, coincidentally, showed up at events, the way my wife's spending spiked after certain weekends. It wasn't glamorous evidence, but it was a pattern. Patterns are harder to ignore than a single accusation. Next, I tightened the finances they thought were private. I moved bank statements, reconciled accounts, and made careful notes. Nothing illegal, just records of how money actually flowed in our household. If my wife planned to claim I'd abandoned responsibilities, I wanted the paper trail to tell the real story. I also leaned on people. Quiet phone calls to friends who actually cared, not the ones who flirted with gossip. I told very little, only asking questions that would make truth surface naturally. A friend of hers mentioned a weekend trip I'd never been invited to. Another said my wife had bragged about being free on certain dates. Small confirmations added up. Then I set my trap. A public but unavoidable reveal. I invited the entire group from that party to a casual, friends and family, barbecue at our place. I cooked enough so nobody would suspect a thing. I made sure the guest list included her friend, and a couple who knew both of them well. I positioned myself as the relaxed host, polite, smiling, quietly in control. At some point in the afternoon, when conversation lulled and the kids were chasing a frisbee, I casually mentioned a new shared photo album I'd compiled from recent events. "It's funny to see who's been at which party lately," I said, as if scrolling through nostalgia. Then, with a calmness that felt almost surgical, I projected a few images and messages onto the TV in the living room. Dates, screenshots, vacation photos with captions that contradicted the little stories my wife had told guests. There was no dramatic music, no shouting. Just the projection filling the room, the screen spelling out what words had tried to hide. Eyes shifted. Faces changed. My wife's smile tightened the way fabric does when it's about to tear. I sat back, watched the reactions, and kept my voice steady when someone finally asked, "What is this?" I let the evidence speak. That afternoon, the rumor wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs, made visible and undeniable. The room fell into a strange, thick silence. My wife's eyes darted around, trying to find an escape route, while her friend's smug grin faltered for the first time. Nobody knew what to say. I didn't need to raise my voice. The truth did the work for me. I finally spoke, calmly, measured. "I think you both need to see what's been happening behind the smiles and the whispers. I didn't need to prove myself before, but now, it's clear the pattern isn't hard to follow." Her friend stammered something, but it came out hollow. My wife opened her mouth, then closed it, realizing the game had flipped. The party that was meant to be a playground for gossip and manipulation had turned into a courtroom, and I held the evidence. Over the next few days, the fallout unfolded quietly, but thoroughly. Friends who had unknowingly taken sides approached me, apologizing for doubting or ignoring the signs. Those who had whispered behind my back found themselves, awkwardly entangled in the narrative I had revealed. My wife tried to explain, but no one needed her version. The proof was in plain sight, and silence carried weight heavier than excuses ever could. I didn't seek revenge with anger or malice. I let strategy, patience, and clarity speak. By the end, what had been a night of betrayal became a testament to observation, composure, and the power of being underestimated. They had thought I'd crumble under their casual cruelty. But I hadn't. I had only waited for the right moment. The final lesson. Respect isn't demanded with threats or rage. It's earned through presence, consistency, and the quiet authority of someone who knows the truth. By the time they realized it, the damage to their credibility had been done. And my peace, my dignity, and my subtle victory were complete. Sometimes revenge isn't explosive. It's surgical. It's knowing when to wait, when to act, and letting the evidence do the talking. And in this case, it did, loud and clear.